What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Today I am attempting to cover a little more out there deck, something a little different, new flavor of the week in Radiant Greninja and Friends, or Radiant Greninja and Toolbox. But yeah, it has a ton of options, so I'm going to attempt to cover it. If you like the content, if you like the list, let me know. Leave a comment, like the video, subscribe if you haven't already. Just kind of let me know what you think of the list. Give it a whirl. Let me know how things go. And here we go. So we've got 4 copies of the Keep Calling Sobble. He's standard stuff. That's our engine here. 3 copies of the Shady Dealings Drizzile. So when you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve, you may search your deck for a trainer card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. We're fighting for bench space in this list, so we're only playing 3 Drizzile. A lot of the time, we only want 2 or 3 in play. We are playing 2 copies of the Quick Shooting Inteleon for math fixing. Once during your turn, you can put 2 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. Very, very good. 1 copy of the Shady Dealings Inteleon. When you evolve this Pokemon, you may search for 2 trainer cards and put them into your hand. That is very good. It is also a solid attacker with Aqua Bullet, so for a water and a colorless, it does 120 and 20 to the opponent's bench. So very, very good. We use all of these as both attackers and utility in this deck. A little thinner on the counts because we are, again, fighting for bench spots. And another Pokemon fighting for bench spots in this deck. Snom. 2 copies of the Call for Family Snom. So search your deck for a basic Pokemon, put it onto your bench. The other one has less retreat, but I'm going with this one because that attack did save me a few times last night. 2 copies of Ice Dance Frostmoth. So as often as you like, you may attach a water energy from your hand to one of your benched water Pokemon. This is the engine that makes it work. We're not playing Melanie, we're not playing Gardenia, we're not playing Trinity Nova. Frostmoth is our engine. Try to get 1 to 2 of those online and then figure out everything else. And then we play 1 copy of Manaphy for bench protection. So prevent all damage done to your bench Pokemon by attacks from your opponent's Pokemon. It's also a water Pokemon. You could attack with it if you'd like. Probably wouldn't recommend it. 1 copy of the new Starmie V. So for 2 colorless, Swift, 50 damage, and it's unaffected by your opponent's weakness or any effects on the opponent's active. Gets through Miltank. But that's not the reason why we're playing it. It's for the free retreat and the 2 water energy spiral. So this does 50 damage for each energy attached to your opponent's Pokemon. So 6 energy on the board. Yes, double turbo energy counts as 2. 6 energy on the board hits 300. That's the most relevant number with Arceus V-Star running around. They get a little crazy trying to put 2 attackers into play and charge up another one on the bench. We can knock things out with Starmie V. We are playing 1 copy of Empoleon V, the Emperor's Eyes ability. As long as this Pokemon is in your active, your opponent's basic Pokemon without a rule box have no ability. This is my go-through Miltank counter. So, Swirling Slice knocks out the Miltank for 130, then move an energy card from this Pokemon to one of your bench. So we are setting something else up with Empoleon here. I really, really like this card. Just easy way to work through the Miltanks, and they have to 2-shot us, so we can go pretty good there. 1 copy of Crabominal V. Trigger Avalanche, discard the top 2 cards of your opponent's deck, or what it's here for 2 water and a colorless, Destroyer Punch. 90 damage and 60 additional damage for each damage counter on your opponent's active Pokemon. So 3 damage counters, you're throwing 180 plus 90, 250, or 270 I mean. 270 is pretty good in this deck. We've got some quick shootings to get the math. We can soften things up. We have a lot going on with the list. That Crabominal is kind of like our late game cleanup. I used it to deal with some Urshifu last night. Again, it was very helpful in the late game. You don't mind pitching it early because we'll get it back. And of course, the star of the show, Radiant Greninja. So its ability, Concealed Cards. Once during your turn, you can discard an energy card. And if you do, draw 2 cards. You think, oh, well, don't we want to put everything on with Frostmoth? Sometimes getting that a little bit more dig is always better. And then the attack that I had so much fun using, Moonlight Shuriken. So for 2 water and a colorless, discard 2 energy from this Pokemon. The attack does 90 damage to 2 of your opponent's Pokemon. Hitting 290 snipes, if they're not playing Manaphy, you break their board. Sparkling Greninja, I got to see in this deck pop off 3, 4, 5 times in a game because my opponent couldn't set up, so I could soften up a Crobat V, hit something else, knock out 2 Sobbles or Drizzles, really crush an engine. If they played Manaphy, I figured out ways to work around the Manaphy, and then I came back for it, and Greninja's there. It also plays into Destroyer Punch, also plays into Starmie numbers. There's ways. We have our pivot, we have our utility. That's kind of like our main 4 attackers there, and then Inteleon is kind of backup. But we're going to jump right into the engine here to get everything going. 4 copies of Quick Ball, discard a card from your hand, search for a basic Pokemon, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Everything besides Inteleon and Drizzile are basic Pokemon. Searches everything. 4 copies of Level Ball, so search your deck for a Pokemon with 90 hit points or less, reveal it, put it into your hand. Grabs our Drizzile, Sobbles, Frostmoth, Snoms, Manaphy's. Grabs enough chunk of the targets. Very, very good. 2 copies of Evolution Incense. Search your deck for an Evolution Pokemon, reveal it, put it into your hand. It just grabs our Frostmoths or Inteleons or Drizziles in case we don't see a Level Ball. They're just kind of there as a good measure. 2 copies of Scoop Up Net. Sometimes you're using it to pick up a damaged Pokemon, so put your one Pokemon that's not a V or GX into your hand and discard anything attached. Sometimes you're picking up a Frostmoth to avoid getting quick shooting off the board. Sometimes you're picking up a Drizzile or an Inteleon to reuse it. Sometimes you're picking up a Manaphy just to get it out of the active. Or sometimes you're picking up Sparkling Greninja to get it out of the active after its Moonlight Shuriken and magically survives. It happens every once in a while. Or to get a second use out of concealed cards. Scoop Up Nets are just kind of like switch cards, but better in this deck. We do play 2 copies of Air Balloon. Everything in the deck except for Crabominable V has free retreat with this card in play. Crabominable V, if you can help it, never play it unless you're ready to take a KO. So Air Balloon will give Frostmoth free retreat, which is probably its best target. Give Manaphy, Empoleon, etc. Like Air Balloon is just kind of our movement. My meta told me there was going to be a lot of Jolteon, so I played 2 copies of Tool Scrapper. The Jolteon from Vivid Voltage with the memory capsule, which is running around in some barrel engines, shuts off all water engines. So choose up to 2 Pokemon tools to your opponent's Pokemon and discard them, or yours or your opponent's. Jolteon with the memory capsule, where it shuts off the abilities of all water Pokemon, break this deck. So I wasn't chancing it with 1. And I certainly wasn't chancing it with 2, because there was a couple games last night where they played 3 memory capsules on their Jolteon. And so I had Tool Scrapper off the first 2, and then they had another one. So if I didn't have the second Scrapper, my deck was essentially off, and I was screwed. No Frostmoth, no Inteleon, no Drizzile, no Manaphy, no Sparkling Greninja. It just shut me off. I wasn't having it, so we went with 2. You can play any other counts if you'd like. I played 1 Capacious Bucket. Search your deck for up to 2 water energy cards, reveal them, put them into your hand. It just grabs 2 water. I don't own a second copy of Capacious Bucket. This should be a second copy, but I played 1 copy of Energy Search, which lets you search for 1 basic energy card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Please play 2 buckets if you own them. Buckets feel like a rare commodity here, like they're hard to find. So I went Energy Search. 3 energy still not too bad. 4 energy is better. So if you own 2 buckets, play 2 buckets. But it says my 1 copy of Palpad, because there are some supporters I might have to pitch early. Some supporters that I might want to get another use out of. Palpad just kind of gave me some freedom in this deck. And then, of course, 1 Hisuian Heavy Ball. So look at your face down prize cards. Reveal a basic Pokemon you find there, put it into your hand, put Hisuian Heavy Ball in its place, face down, and then shuffle your prize cards. Most people think that it's for the Sparkling Greninja or whatever. Most of the times I was using it to just look at my prize cards and then realize like what's in there. I'm guilty of not prize checking. It was just a bailout a lot of times. But it did also help me grab the Manaphy or the Sparkling Greninja or the Starmie or one of the Snoms, because initially I was playing 3 Snoms. And I just figured that the Heavy Ball might be a little better off than just playing 3 Snoms, because Snom is situational. It's like, yes, you want 2, or you want 3, but the Heavy Ball just kind of gave me more. It also helped fish things out early and give me like a heads up, okay, this is what I don't have until I start taking knockouts. It was very, very helpful. But we're going to jump right into the very thin supporter line. Yeah, just play 1 copy of Hisuian Heavy Ball in your decks. 4 copies of Professor's Research. I know, this is more like everything's going south, so we'll have to break the glass and get her in the board. So discard your hand, draw 7. She's mostly in there in case, like I said, the Inteleon engine's struggling, or if our hand is dead and we can go play out all our cards in our hand, which we did. I had one game where it was, I played a Snom and I played a Sobble, and then I passed, and then my opponent threw it back to me, so I drew a heavy ball. Or not a heavy ball, I had a Capacious Bucket in hand, I had a level ball in hand, I drew the Evo Incense, so I grabbed the Frostmoth off that, I grabbed a Drizzile off that, I grabbed, what else did I have? But basically, I ended up getting a turn 2 game-winning Moonlight Shuriken, where I could knock out 2 of their small things. So basically, Research just let me plow through the deck and get the pieces that I needed. Big fan of the Research in this. 3 copies of Nessa. You could play 4 and cut the Palpad. I am not. So this Forgotten card, put up to 4 in any combination, Water Pokemon and Water Energy from your discard into your hand. Most reoccurring combination will be you're grabbing your Sparkling Greninja and you're grabbing 3 Water Energy. You can grab other combinations. You might grab the Starmie and a couple energy. You might grab a Frostmoth, a couple energy. You might grab an Inteleon and a couple energy because it attacked the previous turn. Typically, I was resetting my Moonlight Shuriken with this. And when my opponent was chasing down the V Pokemon, they were locking in with their boss for turn. So that means my hand was being uninterrupted with Nessa. So I could, you know, Nessa continue the loop. And I just basically got to streamline Moonlight Shurikens, set up Starmie on back-to-back turns, Water Energy for whatever I needed. It was very, very good. I didn't expect the card to be as good as it was. Wouldn't go less than 3. Definitely can see the arguments for 4. 2 copies of Boss's Orders. You can play 1. I dare you, don't. Sometimes I need to deal with something that's hiding on the bench, and playing 1 in this deck and then, you know, using it early and then being reliant on Palpad. I'd rather have the 2. Being able to search my deck for the second boss to, you know, chase down a target I might have missed or couldn't finish off, or to take out that Jolteon hiding on the bench because all my scrappers are gone and they're magically playing a 4th memory capsule. Boss's Orders at a 2 count was just kind of like the saving grace in this deck. Then we're going to play 1 copy of Training Court. I know, weird inclusion, but I'm trying to apply principle when you play Clara. So being able to Nessa and grab, say, Greninja and 3 energy, or a Pokemon and 3 energy. Training Court allowing us to get an energy back allows us to go maybe Nessa, 2 Pokemon out of Nessa, and 2 Water Energy, and then Training Court will get us the 3rd energy. It's really there as a one-time stadium bump for Radiant Greninja. Besides that, it didn't see much play. It also let me pitch an energy with concealed cards and then grab it back, so it was almost like a free 2 cards. Big fan. You can argue that there should be more in the deck. I will probably agree with you, but this is just the list I rocked last night. It was very, very fun. We are going to play 9 basic Water Energy. Part of this was because I didn't have a second copy of Capacious Bucket. You can make counts to the Water Energy. You could drop it to 7, go Bucket and grab another Court. You can, you know, tinker the count how you see fit. 9 made sure I always had an energy. I didn't mind pitching it. I didn't mind fetching it back later with Nessa, but I always had enough to kind of Frostmoth Ice Dance into. So 9 was just my sweet spot in this instance. I did prize like 3 Water Energy a couple games. So just having a higher count definitely helped me offset any issues. But yeah, the count is something you can always tinker with as your meta develops, but it's something that I rather enjoyed and I would definitely come back to. And of course, 2 copies of Capture Energy. This was mostly here in case I started something that I didn't want, or I wanted to avoid the donk. It can also be pitched with concealed cards if it's a dead card later in the game, but typically I would go Capture Energy to the Sobble going second, and then I would use that Capture Energy to grab myself a Snom, then I would keep calling and I would have 3 to 4 Sobbles on bench and a Snom. Yes, they could boss it up, but if I also had a level ball, I would burn the level ball to get the second Snom. So it made it easier to go for my ideal board state of anywhere from 1 to 3 Frogs and 2 Snom. So Snom all day, Frogs all day. Sometimes you get lucky and you get to throw Starmie on the bench, and if you put a big 2 prizer on the board and your opponent sees that, they might completely disregard the rest of your setup and just chase after the 2 prizer, which also worked out in my favor a couple times. But Some inclusions I would consider is bumping up the capture energy if you're that fan. Maybe getting in a second copy of Training Court and cutting back on the capture energy or cutting back on the water energy. Definitely switch the energy surge for Bucket. I don't own the second one. I know. I should, but I don't. Crabominable didn't carry a lot of weight, but it was nice cleanup when I couldn't get through Rapid Strike Urshifu. And just protect that Manaphy with your life, because there's a lot of spread decks, and you definitely want it. Tool Scrapper is another card I consider, adjusting. But with Jolteon being so prevalent, even when I logged into PTCGO to test the deck, yeah, the Tool Scrapper just came up clutch against the Jolteons that I was playing, because it was easier to find, knowing that if one of them's in my prizes, I don't automatically lose the game and have to go to game 2. You could even consider a 1-1 Bavaro line if you want a little more draw. But typically your board's a little cluttered. It's like 2 Sobbles, 2 Frostmoth, or 1 to 2 Frostmoth, because if they take 1 offline, then you're also screwed. And then 2 Pokemon. So usually it's Starmie plus a friend, and that's just because it has free retreat. Some relevant matchups that I did play against. I played against an Arceus, Jolteon, Bavaro deck. I forget what the partner was. I think it was Gyarados. I believe it was Gyarados. And that was 2-2. Did get very, very lucky. The Tool Scrappers, however, kept me in the game because they did lock me out of the game at times with Path to the Peak and Jolteon. We did play Rapid Strike Urshifu and Moltres. That was very, very close. He put me on the back foot there and really had me think, because I had to size stuff up and come back for it later and be okay with giving up prizes. And they took out the Frostmoth once or twice. And then lastly, in the finals, we played Lucas, our reigning champ, a couple times. And he had the Arcanteleon, and there was one game where he had the Manaphy out, and it really made me sweat. And I was like, well, what do I do? And I'm mostly figuring it out. And he's a great testing partner in this regard. And that was a really back and forth game 1. Game 2, I got a little lucky. I'm not going to lie. I got a little lucky. I got the Greninja going before he could find the Manaphy, and I could offload his 2 Drizzles and go from there. But essentially, this deck played against Arceus lists, and it played against some Urshifu lists. Both are bad matchups, but both are winnable matchups. So give the deck a whirl. Let me know what you think of the deck in the comments below. Hit that like button if you're enjoying it, and I hope everybody has a good time with Greninja and Friends. Name still undecided. Call whatever you want. Let me know what you think the deck should be called. And until next time, take care.